Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bridal Business Podcast. I'm Josh and I'm here with my co-host Halie, and we're speaking with Elle and Sunny from Belarus Studios and Mission Marriage. And today we're talking about planning and coordinating and everything that entails within their businesses. We got into lots of things like marketing and how experience from other jobs came into wedding planning. So be sure to watch it till the end.
Okay, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in wedding planning?
Absolutely. So I have 6 years of corporate event experience. I still do some of that with a healthcare company now, and it's national events actually. I am pulling back now and I'm focusing more on my business, but where I really found my love of the wedding industry, and I feel like a lot of planners have the same stories. Whenever I was planning my own wedding, I worked very closely with my own wedding planner, and she'd done it for like 5 years. Her daughter is a florist in North Carolina, and I would just ask questions. And I just remember on my wedding night, she was cleaning up, and I was like, I want to be you, Kathy. and she would laugh at me for real. And she was just like, oh, and I'm just like, no, I'm serious. So I ended up scheduling a phone call with her like 2 weeks after our honeymoon. And I was like, I'm really going to do this.
Wow.
So she's the person that believed in me up front. And from there, it was just building up a network who can really help me get to where I am now. And also my love of people.
Yeah. Gotta have that, I feel like, for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Sunny?
Well, so like Elle, I've been married twice.
Okay.
So I planned both of my weddings myself. My husband actually has been an officiant for a little over 12 years. He was doing it voluntarily and just for free. And then all these people kept asking him to officiate their weddings. So fast forward to 2020 in March when the pandemic happened and I was working in the medical field. My office shut down and we were all, scared. So it's like, okay, well, what if we don't open back up? Nobody knows what this thing is going to do. And believe it or not, somebody reached out to him to officiate their wedding, even though everything was closed. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be like a drive-by, do you throw the certificate in the car window kind of thing.
That's hilarious.
Right. So when they reached out to him, I was like, you know what? Let's find out how much officiants make, So we did our research. So then I was like, we're starting a business and you're going to be the officiant. I'm going to be the day of coordinator. This is what we're going to do. I plan things all the time. I'm good at hosting parties. I have like a creative mind, a creative side. And also like you, I'm good with people. So we did it. And within 48 hours, I created a website by myself. And that's how it got started. And wow. We've been working ever since. And we're a great team. We do it together.
That's awesome. It's nice to go into business with somebody. I feel like it makes it a little bit easier because you have somebody like pushing you the whole time too,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced when you started your business?
Definitely knowing what to charge, for sure, 100%, because my very first wedding, which I loved, they were amazing people, amazing bride, amazing family. It was a DIY wedding, which is a lot for your first wedding to do that. Well, and I kid you not. So I get to their venue. It was probably 2 hours from here. I don't even know if I charged a travel fee for that. And the florist was her aunt, and she had a broken leg, literally had a cast from her ankle up to the top of her thigh. And she's over here hobbling around trying to decorate and put florals out. And I know we got down, that was the day of the wedding. So we got down to, it's like 2.5 hours till time for her to walk down the aisle.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, you know what? You just go on and get dressed with the other ladies. I'm going to handle this. So I did all of their decorating. And then not all the decorating. I finished all the floral part and putting all of that out. They did pre-decorating the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cake needed to be cut. There was nobody to cut the cake. I had never cut a wedding cake in my entire life. Literally had it from head to toe by the time I was
no.
done. I was covered in cake icing. And they had Mexican catered in. So this specific restaurant just dropped off the food and left. So I decorated, cut their cake, served their food, put it out, got it ready to be eaten. And we won't even talk about what I charged for that wedding, but I learned from that experience. And I was like, okay, so I need to charge for this, and these are extra things, you know.
And I feel like that kind of helps you learn what questions you need to ask beforehand,
100%.
Before you run into a situation like that again. Oh my
right.
gosh. Yeah,
it was very overwhelming, but they were
overwhelming.
so happy though.
Good.
It went very well. So
Good.
that's what mattered.
Oh gosh, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
What about you, Elle?
I mean, just to piggyback off of that, I just feel like what I wish clients understood was that it's hard to put a price tag on experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty sure that wedding, and I feel like I had that type of situation, you learn as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was challenging. But I also feel like imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, like that's something that people need to talk more about. And I still feel that, and it's really weird because I'm like, I do corporate events, I have couples, I'm working on weddings now, I've done weddings, but then it's kind of a fine line between that magical feeling like, oh my gosh, I own my business, I love everything I do, I love everything I'm learning, I love getting to the next level, and then there's the I don't know what I don't know, and how do I get to that next level? So definitely imposter syndrome. Finding a mentor, I wish that I would have done that sooner, but after I did, and finding the right mentor, because my planner, I mean, she helped me get up on the right foot, but then as far as the ins and outs of building a business, and then how to actually get in front of clients, things like that, it took me months to learn. But I own that story too. I'm really proud of it. And then having faith in the groundwork that I laid out. I feel like, especially in the beginning, if you've never owned a business before, you have to have faith in the things that you're doing on your own. Because, you know, I didn't have the funds up front necessarily to put towards someone who can build a website and make sure that it was perfect. And then you're building your social media up from the ground up, and you're jumping on social media and you're commenting on posts, and you're just hoping someone responds to you and notices your business. But then eventually I feel like, especially like after the styled shoot and the brand shoot that I did, it all eventually comes together, and you figure out you were preparing all along for your next client, or as a business owner, your first client.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's good. Definitely. Wow. I don't know if I could be a coordinator.
It takes a special person. It does. It takes to be a day of coordinator. It does.
Do you think that, you know, for somebody who wants to be a coordinator, you would suggest working under somebody for a little bit rather than just jumping in head first yourself? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the experience that is hard to put a price tag on.
Yeah.
There's never the same wedding that you're going to be working. And so you'll learn skills that a course can't teach you.
Yeah, definitely. How did you go about building your portfolio and attracting your first clients?
Let's see here. So I started to think about the needs of my ideal client. But first it was, of course, figuring out what my ideal client looks like. So going back to the groundwork, making sure that whatever I was doing, whether it's the post that I was putting up, the style of pictures, the vendors I was working with, it all aligned with who my ideal client was. And then also just kind of figuring out, well, how do I get in front of them? And then, you know, and I kind of just broke it up into phases. Okay, so how do I find them? Who are they? How do I get in front of them? And then once they reach out to me, how do I navigate that conversation? How do I then execute?
Yeah, there really is like a set way to do it, just like with any service that you book, and you kind of have to figure that out.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you?
For me, I have years of marketing and sales experience prior to wedding planning. Social media, I feel like I did network marketing a long time ago, and I did it for like 5 or 6 years. So my business then was social media based. So that's how I started advertising. And then, like you said earlier, I didn't have a lot of startup funds in the beginning either for the business. So I started looking for the bridal shows and vendor events that were less costly. So I would go find little shows, and I did several that were local to here, because what I learned is that getting in front of someone and letting them see your face and talk to you and see your personality, that's what's really going to seal the deal, when they see what you do and you can explain what you do. But the thing about a bridal show is you literally have like 5 minutes. You've got 5 minutes of that person standing in front of you to get some information in their hand, to tell them what you do, to get them to write their information down so that you can call them to follow up and, hey, remember me? You saw me at Nine Oaks Farm out in Monroe. You know what I mean? So it was really social media and vendor events for me. And now really mostly everything is social media. I'm on Google too. So I have a great web designer now. She tweaked my website once I could afford to have someone do it, to up my SEO and keep things up at the top of Google,
SEO and Google Analytics.
Yeah. So she did a great job. Julia Maldonado. Throw her name out there. Yeah, Julia Maldonado. That's who you want. Yeah. So she did do a great job, but yeah.
Do you guys find vendor relationships to be helpful in your, I would think as a coordinator, that's very, very important to have people to recommend to your clients. Where do you find the best vendor connections?
Vendor connections, definitely at the weddings.
Seeing them work,
Yeah, and then we have that networking group. So that's good when you have a networking group of women. And you can always find something in one of those, whether it's hair, makeup, or flowers, or photography, But vendor connections, I feel like, are very, very important because once you've worked with somebody, you know how they work. And like, there are people who I recommend and there's people who I wouldn't go back and recommend. And that's just because I want the weddings I coordinate to go a certain way and I want my clients to be happy, and I don't want any slip ups. And
I know that whenever
how much are we allowed to say in here?
Just don't use any names.
Okay, well, let me just tell you guys the story because I have to share the story with you. I had a DJ that
those are the worst.
Are you a DJ?
But I'm a DJ.
Okay, no, I love DJs. I love my DJs. I love them. But this DJ I had never worked with before, and the space heaters at this very cold wedding were not working. So he is trying to help get these space heaters started, and then it's like he never played any music. He was never behind the DJ stand. He was adjusting floral arrangements and like trying to keep the heaters working and going back to the bar and getting drink after drink. And I was just like, was
there music playing?
Sometimes, and sometimes there wasn't. But usually, a good coordinator and DJ relationship is you're playing off of each other through the whole wedding, right? So you're going off the itinerary together. It looks
because
like
they have certain songs they have to play at certain times for certain things. Yeah.
Right. When their clients start to get tired, and you can tell when you need to wrap things up because the bride's she just wants to get out of that dress. You know what I mean? So that's how it should be. But this was not like that at all. And it was just one of those moments. Most of my DJs that I've worked with have been amazing. Yeah.
Oh, man. I feel like we all have a couple of vendor stories of like, oh my God, we're never working with them again. I know me and Joshua do for sure. We worked on quite a few things together, whether it be styled shoots or weddings. And there's just sometimes, I'll be in my makeup chair getting somebody ready and we'll peek over at each other and we'll be like, oh God, this is going down the drain very quickly.
Right. Yeah. Good
vendors really do make or break a wedding.
They do. Totally. They do. You get what you pay for.
Yes.
100%. You absolutely do.
Yeah.
So.
Our next question, can you walk us through the process of booking a wedding planning job from initial consultation to delivering the final product?
Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn.
Oh, okay. So, well, let's use the example of if someone submits my Google form, okay, on my website. I send them a little message and let them know if I'm available for that date. And then I give them a quick rundown of what my wedding coordinating package includes. And then I say, can I schedule a call with you for this week? Blah, blah, blah. Try to schedule a call. So we get on there and I just go over what their vision is. Like, what do you see for your wedding? What's your theme for your wedding? How many guests are you having? You know, do you want it elegant? Do you want it rustic? And I try to get all of that information from them so that I have in my head what they need. And then I come back and tell them what I can offer based on their vision and what their needs are. And of course, we do talk about their budget. I ask them what their budget is so that I can make sure that whoever I'm going to recommend to them
is within it.
Is within their budget. Yeah. And that's how we do it. And then once they have decided if they want to book, I send them a contract and an invoice and they can sign it electronically and we're good to go. For my day of coordinating, my day of coordinating includes 30 days up to the wedding. I do month of, day of, because I feel like there's just some extra stuff in there that needs to be finalized leading up to that day. And I don't like to just wing it and just be thrown in there the day of the wedding. And then my wedding planning, I have, different packages that I do. I do full service and partial planning. And the only difference really is that full service is if they haven't chosen a venue and we have to tour. So if we're touring all over Georgia, then that's a full service planning package.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty easy booking process.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. It's easy to book.
What about you, Elle?
I mean, right along with that, I really do care about my client experience. So I try to automate things as much as possible. So from the inquiry form, and I have that in HoneyBook attached to my website. So they'll get an automated email with my service packages as well as my base pricing. So that way they can already start to look at it. And then if I'm not within their price range, they're not going to schedule a call. If I am and they're interested, they want to talk more about a certain package, then they're going to book a call. Along with that automated email, I also have my Calendly link. So I get pretty excited when I see the inquiry come through, and then about 10, 15 minutes later, I see a Calendly appointment come through, and then we have our call. So in our consultation, I've broken it up where I hit on past, present, future. So past, tell me about you. I want to know who you are, and then, present, tell me about your life. Are you busy? Do you both work? What does that look like? So that way I know how to support them if we are to work together. And then future, I want for them to talk about what they're envisioning. So that way, again, I can figure out if me and my team are the right fit for them. We, of course, will then expand on our package. We'll try to select one in that conversation. So that way I know what quote to send them. I have the quote set up in Our Planner, so that doesn't take too long. I just let them know if you accept it, that automatically tells me that it's time for me to build a proposal. So then I go back into HoneyBook and I create the proposal and the agreement. I used to just have HoneyBook, which took so long, for me at least, to work on the agreement and the proposal and the payment plan. So Our Planner really helped in that sense, where I can just have the template for whatever package they select. I can send it out. It takes 10 minutes.
HoneyBook has templates now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw that. I do. Yeah. I really just like the formality of Our Planner.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. I've never heard of that.
But if they accept it, I put together the proposal, and then at least I know when I'm putting in the work, the time to fill all that stuff out, especially the agreement part, which used to make me so nervous. Then I know, okay, I have a pretty high likelihood of them accepting this, putting down the retainer. And then, as we all know, we hear that cha-ching when they book with you, right? So I'm just like, do my happy dance. And then we go from there. I let them know right away though, okay, so once you book, you put down your retainer. I do 30% retainer, non-refundable. I will automatically have a welcome packet sent out to you. And then depending on the package, that's going to determine really what the schedule of all of it, what it's going to look like. And so, yeah.
Wow.
I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that does a happy dance.
Oh yeah,
cha-ching.
Cha-ching's a great noise anyway, whether it's on Venmo or it's like that's always a great noise.
Bridal Business Podcast sponsored by Honeybook.
That would be nice.
I love Honeybook. Awesome. Do you guys do you do like payment plans, or do you do like a retainer and then the rest is due like all right before, or do you do like different payments scheduled at a different time?
So I offer pay in full or the non-refundable retainer, 30%, and then I just kind of, most of my clients will do monthly payments. But if it's really far out and they request it, if they say, can you just break it up into 2 separate payments because I don't want to do a payment plan, then I'll work with them.
Okay, so you kind of do it custom based on your client's needs.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, I do half down. So that's like my retainer. And then the full balance is due 7 days before the wedding. That's for day of coordinating. If it's planning, it's going to be half down. And then I usually break up the remainder over 2 or 3 different payments, depending on what they want to do.
Okay.
So it's still the same, like customizing based on, what works for them.
Okay.
So,
good to know. Good to know. Let's see. How do you handle difficult situations or unexpected challenges that may arise during a wedding? Such a good question.
So let's see here. I try to get ahead of it just by asking the right questions up front. So I will send out a timeline questionnaire first, and that will help me, just figure out what exactly they're envisioning. Some clients will already have a timeline that they happily created themselves, but of course, as a planner, there's things that they likely didn't think about. And so I just make sure, hey, be flexible so we can work on this together. And then once we finalize it upon your approval, then I'll send it out to vendors, then I'll send it out to the venue. But on top of the timeline questionnaire, I also send out a final details. Well, actually, I don't really send it out as much. So I like to fill it out with them on the phone. So that way, especially leading up and it's a lot closer to the event itself, anything that's changed, anything that I probably didn't know, we're going through all of that right before the actual wedding date. Let's see here. Have a designated contact for the day of. That to me is really important so that I'm not bugging the bride or groom. Let's see. And I think that's all I have.
Okay.
So problems that arise the day of the wedding. So in my mind, that is putting fires out, right?
Yes.
So really, that's when it comes down to when I said it takes a special person to be a wedding planner or day of coordinator. Being a people person and being able to smile through a difficult scenario is very important in this industry. I could just sit here and tell you guys stories of fires that have happened. One of the funniest things that happened that I will tell you about is a wedding I did where the groom's mother and the bride's mother, so there's a seating chart for a reason. Okay, these two, I guess, did not get along well. So, all right.
Got the mom drama.
So, yeah, the mom drama. So they had one on one side of the reception, the other on the other side of the reception. Well, this mom sat in her seat and that mom sat in her seat. And so I went over and I, to the groom's mom, I'm like, hi. So you guys are actually supposed to be seated on the other side of the reception. And she goes, I'm not moving. And I was like, okay, I'll be right back. So I went over to the bride's mom and I was like, hey, you guys are over here. So if we could get one of you to switch. And she's like, I'm not moving either. And I'm like,
oh, God.
All right. And I said, well, here's the thing. Somebody's going to have to move because the bride wants you guys seated on the other side of the reception. So if both of you just get up and move, then one or the other is not having to give in or whatever. So the bride ended up being like, hey, don't worry about it. It's fine, blah, 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 blah. But then her dad came and slipped me $100 in my pocket for trying to deal with them. So it must have been like,
everybody
kind of
knew
thing.
Yeah,
that was but there's always something like that, whether it's tuxedos, which I feel like that's the biggest thing, or that happens at almost every wedding.
That's been happening a lot recently.
It really is.
Shirts being the wrong size.
Sleeves too short, pants too short. Yeah.
Hems
that
all
happened,
the way up here.
Yeah.
That happened at my wedding. That happened at my wedding. One of my boys' sleeves was too long and one was too short.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ends up noticing. I feel like nobody looks at the tuxes and the photos most of the time. I think we might. But other people, But that's been really big this year.
It happens all the time, but I will tell you the one tuxedo shop that everyone says is amazing is Guffey's in Atlanta.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that they are incredible. So Guffey's, but
yeah, we did Men's Warehouse.
You want that good experience.
I am not an advocate for Men's Warehouse.
Men's Warehouse. Right. There have been some issues there, but there's always something, and you just have to be on top of it, and you have to be willing to take the initiative to put the fire out and try to keep everybody calm. I feel like emotions run super high the day of the wedding and even the night before the wedding for the bridal party, the bride, even sometimes the groom's party, the moms.
Do you have any tips for our brides watching on things that they should, not skip over and make sure they look into before their wedding day to make sure it goes smoothly? I know timeline, you said, was a really big thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you get with a coordinator on your timeline, right?
Have a coordinator.
Yes.
I agree.
Don't get Aunt Susie to coordinate your wedding that has never done a wedding in her whole life, because Aunt Susie does not know what she's doing.
Most of the time, yeah.
Right.
Aunt Susie turns to us.
Right. Aunt Susie goes to somebody else. Yeah. Just make it a vital part of your budget. And even there are coordinators out there that they start at $600, $800, that if the budget isn't high, there are people who will do it. Just make sure that they're experienced and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. One thing that I always like to tell people is what's your rush, right? If you're saving up for your wedding, why do you have to have it in 6 months? Why do you have to have it in wait until you have that budget that you can really have the dream wedding that you want, instead of throwing things together and DIYing things really quickly. Why not just save the money to have that big extravagant wedding you're envisioning with somebody who's going to take care of you the entire day? Because I know for my wedding, my coordinator was a freaking saint. He came with my venue. He was just, you remember.
Your wedding was perfect.
What venue did you get married at?
In the woods.
In the woods. I've heard of that one. I haven't been there yet.
You need to go to an open house. Go to an open house. It is freaking beautiful. They do have coordinators and planners there, but you're allowed to bring in your own too. But my coordinator there did everything. He was freaking awesome.
That's great.
I could not have done my day without him, or my photographers, because photographers and videographers, I feel like, are the next in line right behind you. They just kind of pick up the timeline and make sure things go smooth. But we ran late taking photos, I think, and he kept having to tell people okay, play another song.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of photos to take, because you know me, I'm bougie, but I loved my coordinator. I always tell my brides, that's one of my first questions I ask. Do you have your venue picked out, and do you have a coordinator?
Yeah.
One thing I don't like, though, I don't know if you guys know about this, but some planners will message me for their brides, which is fine, but normally I have to have a consultation call with the bride to ask her about the party, how many services, things like that, and some of that stuff the coordinators just can't answer, so I kind of waste my time having a phone call with a coordinator versus having that direct communication with my bride. Do you guys coordinate with every individual vendor for them, or do you just set up the appointments?
I typically will do research on the front end first if they're telling me, okay, this is my style and this is my budget. But then, depending on which package they have, I'll reach out to see if they're even available on that date. If they are, then I will let them have their consultation.
Yeah.
Because, it wouldn't be the same information that I can get, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it just depends on the bride. Like I had one bride that worked all the time. And I think she's actually I reached out to you for her because she did not want to she wanted me to book everybody. She was like, I don't want to make the calls. I don't have time. And she didn't. She literally didn't have time to make the calls. So I did that. I talked to everybody, talked to them about the contracts. And the only thing she had to do was sign the contract and send the money. Yeah. I did the rest of the work for her. So I guess it just depends on them. But I do see what you mean, that you do need to have that consultation.
Because we just have to know so much, like what time we can get into the bridal suite, how much space is in the bridal suite, what time you guys need to be ready so I know how many people I need to bring. And if the coordinator can answer these questions for me, like gung-ho, like, but for me to sit there and have to type out all of the questions that I have to ask, that I could just hop on a phone call with the bride, I'm like, this freaking sucks. So there is a coordinator, I won't mention their name, but they message me ever so often, and I have told my admins not to reply to her because she's rude, but she reached out to me one time and was like, I need a quote for this many services for this. I said, okay, well, I kind of need to talk to your bride because I need these questions answered. And she was like, okay, send me the questions. I sent her the questions. Okay. She sent me back like 3 out of the 10 questions answered and was like, I just need a quote for this. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. And she messaged me another time and gave me all the information that I needed. Okay. She looked at my form, I guess, on my website. I sent her the very detailed information. She asked me for a quote. I sent her the quote back. And she emailed me back. I still to this day can't believe the audacity. She emailed me back and she was like, I want you to know that my clients have declined using your services and it wasn't because of the cost.
Oh, goodness.
Like, what do you even say to that? You know, like
It's surprising. It's if
bullet.
anyone's going to understand a vendor and how business works, it would be another vendor, especially a planner or coordinator.
Exactly.
Right. It just really threw me off guard.
Yeah.
And seeing she's all over the wedding pages we use and stuff. And I was just like, no.
I get, okay, so I've heard horror stories of coordinators who are too bossy, or the last wedding I did, the bridal party, a couple of the girls came up to me and just told me that I did a great job, and they're like, you're so nice. And one of them told me that even her coordinator that she hired, she's like, I had to apologize to my whole family for the way this lady acted.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, you are in charge of the day, but you're not in charge of people.
Yes.
So you have to be able, you're taking instruction and then going and relaying that instruction to make the day run smoothly, right? So that's really how it's working. I don't know. I've heard different things. I've heard stories. I've heard of great coordinators. I've heard of coordinators that are absolute, terrible. So I had one guy tell me, a photographer one time, that I did this huge Indian wedding. It was so beautiful. But he came up to me and he was like, the last wedding I did, the coordinator literally sat there and was so stressed out and was drinking through the whole wedding. And I'm like, and he told me that him and the videographer were the ones having to gather all the people and they were having to coordinate. And it was really them doing it because that person was
I've heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I know. You hear all kinds of stuff because you're around so many people all the time.
I went
so
to
many
a
vendors.
friend's wedding and there were 2 coordinators. Okay, I guess it was a girl and her assistant. And they kind of just sat down. There was chairs against one of the walls at the venue. And they just kind of sat down there the whole time. And you could tell she would get up to go tell the DJ hey, this is happening at this time. But that's it. And they just sat there and come it wasn't late. It was right after dances and stuff when people started dancing, before the send-off though. And they were sitting in the corner drinking, sitting on their phones, not checking on the brides, nothing. And I swear it took everything in me not to go over and say something. Because you know me.
Yeah.
I'll say something. I'll say something.
Yeah.
But her poor photographer was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I was like, what did they hire you for?
Right, yeah.
And most brides just don't know. like they don't know like, oh, this is what my coordinator's supposed to be doing, so they don't know to say something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you must believe my coordinator, Matthew, if you're watching this, okay, he's this little gay guy, and he just runs around and he gets you anything that you need. Like he just, you know what? It's like it's like a little elf, you know? Just around,
that's how it's supposed to be, though.
Yes.
You're supposed to be a little elf.
Matthew,
you are a little elf. Can I get you guys anything? You know, so who needs something? You know, I had one wedding where they didn't allow alcohol before the wedding started, and the bride and the bridal party had been there for quite a while, and they just wanted some champagne. So I just went and found the right person and came in with a tray of champagne. They thought that was the best thing that ever happened, you know, because they needed that.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to give people what they need.
Yeah, you definitely
They're paying for it, first of all. So
I had a quick question. This is a little, I guess, selfish. I am slowly like getting like growing towards a more luxury brand, and now I'm starting to have planners reach out to me where it's like I'm only communicating with the planner. So I guess my question is like, what is the best way for like that vendor, especially from a photographer or videographer, communicating to a planner? What is the best way to go about that to where they know everything that they need to know for the bride to book you, I guess?
Your packages based on how many hours you're going to be there.
Yep.
Okay. And then your rate, obviously, based on those packages. Also, what type of style you offer. So we have brides that want a moodier vibe or a light and airy vibe, or, you know, so know those things so that when they call you, you can be like, well, this is what, or if you can do all the vibes, that's even better. You know what I mean? So just be the guy that can vibe. No.
I second all of that.
Yeah.
But also because, like Halie, you were saying, when it comes to the day of timeline, it really, I think, comes down to the planner and the photographer, videographer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I try to explain it to my couples too. You know, hair and makeup, they have their own timeline typically. That's in the first part of the day, but then there's kind of a little handoff. And then, you know, it's up to your photographer and your coordinator to make sure that the rest of the day is really executed. And then, of course, all the other vendors will come in. But if that relationship isn't there and the communication isn't there from a photographer, videographer, then it makes it tougher because we want to make sure that the timeline is aligned. I think it's really important as a planner, too, to make sure that you are taking care of the vendors that you're going to be working with that day. Mm-hmm. So I always try to get in front of that and I just say, okay, I know you have your own timeline. I don't want to step on what you're doing, you know, but I just want to make sure that it's all included, that it all works well for the couple. But if that communication isn't there, then it's tough.
I feel like it helps for coordinators and photographers to communicate initially to create that timeline together versus like, hey, this is the one I made. This is the one I have made. Let's figure out how to... I think having open communication and making sure brides put you guys in contact early is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take someone off of my preferred vendor list, although I think that they're very talented. I've worked with them on a couple events before. It was tough to hear because I actually referred her to another couple, and this couple didn't end up going with her. And I asked why, and she was like, I'm just really irritated because I haven't even booked this photographer, and she already told me that she wanted to start changing up the timeline that I had created. And I was like, well, and I tried to, you know, understand. I didn't want to make any assumptions, but I'm like, you know, we're going to be working on the timeline too, because couples sometimes don't have their own timeline. Again, They have an idea of how they want their day to go, but they don't know all of the details. And she was like, no. She really did just try to change it before I hired her, and I really just didn't like that. So pricing, okay, love her work, but it's just not going to work out personality-wise because if I hire you, then we can have that conversation. And then, of course, me being the planner, especially someone who's referring her, that doesn't make me look good if I'm referring someone to her that she ended up, you know, not liking as far as communication goes. And I steps on my toes too that you're trying to change up a timeline without talking to me. So I just, without even saying anything, I just kind of broke that tie.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what you asked earlier about tips for brides. Sometimes they don't realize what the time increments should be in the timeline. You know, It's not going to take 45 minutes for the first dance. it's literally going to take like
I mean,
5 to 6
really
minutes.
goes for the whole day. There's some consultation. We get an email and we have our consultation call. So this is really my first verbal communication over the phone with a bride. There is sometimes they'll be like, oh, we have 2 hours to get 8 people ready.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so then I have to explain to them, well, it takes 1 hour to get one person ready.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to get that many, we're going to have 4 people there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that's just going to be more cost. People don't realize like how much time you need in the morning to get ready, how much time dances take, how much time cutting the tape. Like, I know when I started making my timeline, even like I had been to some weddings, but like I really didn't realize how much time photos took in it, because I wanted to have an earlier ceremony in the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but I wanted to do an earlier ceremony, and then I ended up pushing it because we did have so many people to get ready. Mm-hmm. We wanted to do a first prayer, and I did first looks with bridesmaids and groomsmen and dads. So all of that takes extra time. So I think maybe what she did, making those suggestions before she booked, I could see them getting upset about that. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, though, I like to be transparent on the first phone call. Mm-hmm. You know, like, hey, I would love to work with you. I care about all this information that you're telling me. You might want to take this into consideration. Even if you don't book me, like, we're not going to have enough time to get you guys ready with my team. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people can take, even if it was just the personality, you know what I mean, the wrong way, when we're really just all trying to be really helpful and be like, hey, make sure you think about this, you know, because at the end of the day, we want it to go smoothly, probably more than you do, you know?
Yep.
So I could see
all that. Yeah, all perspectives.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What would be the best way for someone who hasn't worked with you guys to kind of reach out and get to know you, so that you might be able to build that vendor relationship to where if you haven't worked together yet, you might recommend them even though they're not on your preferred vendors list?
Call me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Call you.
On the phone.
Meeting people through people.
Yeah.
I would think.
You can pick up on personalities and communication styles just in, I think, even one conversation.
Right.
And then, if it's electronic, then you can see how fast they're responding, how they communicate. But I usually know within that first conversation if it's someone I really want to work with. And then, of course, I'll take a look at their social media, make sure that the style, it aligns with mine.
Mm-hmm.
So reach out and schedule a call, or just like Instagram
do you want to be their
call?
Friend, Joshua?
I do.
Right. Yeah. Just call. So here's the thing. A lot of vendors email, right? They'll email and they'll find your information, and then they're telling you who you are and they want to connect and be part of your vendor list and all this. And we read those emails, but at the same time, that email kind of goes to the back burner because we have emails from clients that we have to take. Yeah, I know. So we have to do that first. So if you want to talk, just call me. Like, let's talk, okay? Because if I hear your voice and I see how excited you are to be part of the industry, I'm going to give you a chance, even if I haven't ever worked with you before.
That's a big thing for me, too. I'm not a coordinator, so I can't really answer for them. But I know for me, I don't put anybody on my preferred vendors list I don't have a personal relationship with or I haven't worked with. Work with is the big thing, like, because you have to see how somebody works, because somebody can be like super cool like we are, and then I can go and get you 2 hours behind on your makeup timeline. You know what I mean? So I feel like seeing how people work and getting to know people's like in-depth personality is really important, but like networking events, styled shoots, like all kinds of like good places to meet people, because I've been asked by coordinators, I mean, at least a couple of months to come do a styled shoot. You know what I'm saying? That's how we met. And that's how I meet my favorite coordinators, honestly, is if they can run a good styled shoot. Because we've been to styled shoots where the coordinators are terrible.
I'll be doing a styled shoot at my venue at some point. Not yet, but I will be.
Yeah, good. Yeah, she just opened up a venue in Grayson.
I was going to ask you, because I mean, you hinted at it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I want to know your story. But, it's also, I trust the vendors that I work with, who are on my preferred list. So for you, Halie, anyone that you send me, whether it be a model or just the fact that I saw that you were working with Josh. Do you go by Josh or Joshua?
Josh is fine.
Josh. I'm not gonna lie, I stalked your Instagram page for a while before like I reached out because I like your work. And if you're working with Halie and Lush Beauty Bar Atlanta, I know that you're quality. So I am more inclined to refer you over.
Yeah. I feel like it took us a really long time to build a name for ourselves. But once you establish that name and people are like, oh, this person that we really like works with this person, like, that's the easiest way for me to hop in on someone. Because, like, if Sunny recommends them, I'm going to be like, okay, I like them already, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, can you share some tips on how to stand out and differentiate oneself in a competitive wedding planning market?
Ooh, Lord, is it a competitive market, too?
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you.
Atlanta in itself is a good wedding market and very cutthroat and competitive.
Yes, it is. In every industry, I feel like, wedding vendor-wise, like, it's very hard to make friends. For me, I know.
Well, so I feel like, obviously, being outgoing and being friendly with your vendors, with your clients, not being lazy on the wedding day, being the little elf that you spoke about earlier. People like that. Like when you dote on people and you cater to people and give them what they need, you know, that makes them feel good that they have that person there to do that. So that's just really important. And social media. Okay, let's take social media, for example. When I make a post on social media, my posts generally are something that comes straight from the heart. It's not super like salesy, you know, this is why you need a wedding coordinator, because like I was talking about Aunt Susie, I always say Aunt Susie, but Aunt Susie doesn't know how to run your wedding. Aunt Susie is not a wedding coordinator. You know, you don't want to deal with the little details when you're trying to make your day go smoothly. You want somebody to take care of that for you. And I try to be from the heart and genuine about the things that I do. And when I'm talking to a bride and groom, and when you're trying to keep people calm on the day of the wedding, when those emotions are running high, that's very important. That's going to make you stand out. You know, if the DJ plays the wrong song when the bride is about to walk down the aisle, you keep it lighthearted and you're just like, girl, listen, nobody even noticed that. Come on, we're going to just loop it back around. Nobody's even going to realize that happened. And then you just get them down the aisle and they're okay, you know, instead of making a big deal about it. And you're like, oh my God. You know, he's playing the wrong song. Like, you're the coordinator and you're the one making a big deal about it. And now the bride's freaking out over in the bridal suite and she's having a panic attack.
Like
and she don't want to go down
takes
the aisle.
A certain personality.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it helps too, like, you know, my husband, I talked about, he's an officiant, but he's got like this great sense of humor. So, you know, having somebody around too to joke around and be funny and, you know, keep people smiling.
Yeah.
We're in the job of keeping people smiling, basically.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Keeping people happy.
Yeah. Keep them happy. Yeah. So they remember it.
I completely agree with all of that. I feel like where your love goes, well, anyway, I had a quote in my head, but it fell out of my head.
That happens sometimes.
I thought about it. It makes sense. Did it? Okay. So I've never really compared myself or my business to anyone else. I stepped into this role not to be like other people. Although, I mean, it's easy for a lot of wedding vendors to start to look the same. And but that's okay because we are who we are and we're going to attract folks that like us for who we are, right? Yeah. And so I prefer to put the blinders up. You know, if I make really great connections with other planners, which I'm starting to do, because we can't do this alone, especially, you know, because we can't be in multiple places at once. I'm learning that. I just have faith that it'll work out.
Yeah. So just being genuine in everything that you do and having actual love for what you do and letting that love show.
Yeah. If you're like for me personally, I still tear up when at the father-daughter dance, or when the groom looks at the bride coming down the aisle, you know, or at the cutest ring bearer. Oh my gosh, the wedding I did 2 weeks ago, the ring bearer was the cutest thing I had ever seen in my life. He had on like a little golf hat and suspenders. I think he was like 3 years old. He had long curly hair. He looked like
you'll need to get us a picture.
I know. I wanted to take a picture, but I'm always so weird about taking pictures of people's kids, you know. Like, hey, you know, taking pictures. You don't want to be like that.
Just email them. Hey, can you please email me a photo of your ring bearer?
I'm going to do that actually, because he was adorable. But yeah, you know, when you show emotion at their wedding, they know that you're happy that you're there. And then that makes them glad that they hired you.
So aside from these questions, I do have another question. On your like website, social media, how do you guys use photos to market? Do you guys take photos from weddings that you've done or certain like things that you've made? How do you use photos in your marketing?
I am starting to get away from any type of photos that I or my team have taken. If they look like quality, like that, the lighting was hitting just right, then and it goes with the aesthetic of my page, particularly Instagram, then I'll use it. But I really try to have a strong relationship with the photographer, videographer, so that way everything is just streamlined and it looks aesthetically beautiful all the way through. Because for me, I'm representing my business, but also the couple and also the other vendors I work with. So as my business grew, I started taking down posts that we took on our phones.
Yeah, same thing. Like as you go, you just, once that relationship's built with the photographer, you want to be able to use the photographer's photos. I have a lot of my own photos on my social media and my website right now, but I'm also in the process of revamping everything. So, you know, you just have to do it as you go along.
Learn as you go type thing.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you, we kind of already answered this, but how do you handle pricing and packages for your wedding planning services?
Yeah, just
kind of
custom based on what their needs are. I have the basic price for certain things. So like my full service planning price, my partial planning price, my day of coordinating price. If they want decor put out and cleanup and cake cutting, things like that, those are all extra
additional
charges.
Costs,
they're additional. So, but it starts at a certain rate and then I just add on if I need to.
Okay. Yeah, same for you.
The very same.
Yeah.
So I looked at the market because I did not, as a new wedding planner, even though I do have the event experience, or event planning experience, I did not want to be the person who undercut the experienced planners within our market, because again, there's plenty of them.
That's very thoughtful.
Thank you. Well, because I mean now, especially having experience, it's easy for couples who have a tighter budget to, you know, be inclined to work with someone who isn't charging a lot. But then that says a lot about the experience that person might have. And also I feel sad for them because they're undercutting themselves because they end up doing a whole lot more work without getting paid for it. So I did a lot of research when it came to the market, what experienced planners were charging, what kind of experience they have, also what work needs to get done, what I can fairly pay myself and my staff that I'll have with me, and let's see, overall what income I want to have for the year so that I can provide for myself and my family. Yeah,
it's very true. What are some of the most important things you knew before you started your business?
About weddings, or what do you mean?
In general, about business, about weddings, about being a wedding planner?
Never to quit. And then I can do anything that I put my mind to, you know, try to apply that to life and parenting and marriage, you know, never quit.
Yeah. I feel like we all kind of feel like that.
Life is going to throw all kinds of stones at you, and so will Bridezillas.
or the city of Grayson.
They'll throw all kinds of stones at you, but you have to be willing to, you know, pick yourself up and keep going. And for me, and even like my best friend, she'll tell you like perseverance is just embedded in my personality. And I'm one of those people that if I'm frustrated and I've had like 3 days that were just awful, I will literally spend a day crying and screaming in a pillow and getting it all out. And then I'm like, okay, all right, we gotta keep going. You know, because that's just, you have to. You have to. And I'm for this, I love doing this, and I'm not going to let anything stop me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
that's good advice.
Yeah. Perseverance.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure as business owners, we can all think back to the time before we did this, where we were like, can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like? How do I become successful? And I think that the difference between mediocrity and someone who's successful is simply the fact that regardless of the emotions that go along with, I mean, there's fear, right? There's fear of the unknown. It's doing it anyway. Having the courage to do it anyway. And like you said, having the perseverance to move forward, because there should be no expectation.
Yeah, right.
Just the standard that comes from yourself and what you're willing to do to get to the level of success.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think being patient and realizing for any of us, it takes time. It's going to take time to perfect the way that you handle clients, the way that you handle weddings, the way that you book, like everything. It takes time. It took me 1.5 years to perfect my client process. So I think being patient and realizing.
Yeah. What people want, what people need.
Goes hand in hand with that for sure.
I think there are a lot of people out there who have an entrepreneurial mindset, but the fear of what can happen if it doesn't work out keeps them from starting their business. And I forgot who said it, but I have read or heard somewhere before that fear is false evidence appearing real. That's the acronym, you know. Like for me, I have been, since I was a little girl, I have had an entrepreneurial mindset. I read the Babysitters Club and started my own Babysitters Club. I never babysat with the Babysitters Club, but I had it written down. I had a business plan, you know. So, and I've done other things too. Like I had my own little spray tanning business for a while until I got pregnant with my daughter, and then I quit doing that. Yeah, cool. I did. So it's just embedded. I just encourage people that you don't have to have a lot to start your dream. You know, if you have a dream and you have a piece of paper, you write it down and you do that one simple thing that is going to get it off the ground, and then take it piece by piece and go from there. And there's also people who say you have to have money to make money. You really don't have to have money to make money. You don't. Yeah. Depending on what you're doing. You could, let's take you for example.
For you guys, you definitely don't. Yeah.
Right. For a coordinator, you don't have to have money to get started.
Unless you want to go get an education for it or work under somebody or something, apprenticeship or something.
And even if it's minimal, like a makeup artist, you know, you get your makeup kit, right? And then you find one client, and then you just start putting that money from those clients.
For us, we have to, you know, do makeup on people and get photos and stuff. So you do lose some money in that. My makeup kit's probably worth $30,000. So
that's a nice makeup kit.
Different people do different things. But I know for me, it did take me a little bit of money to make money. I feel like all businesses are different though. I mean, photographers, you have to get a camera, you have to get editing equipment, things like that. For you guys, not so much. You know, you don't really have to have anything super significant to get yourself off of the ground in that area, which is really, really nice.
Yep.
If you're wanting to be a coordinator, you know. For me, I always tell my people, I'm like, you gotta have some type of money. Makeup doesn't fall from the sky, but
yeah, it's true. It'd be nice if it did, though. Be out there with a hat, like.
Yes, it would. Somebody sponsor me. How do you balance creative expression with client expectation, and what is your approach to fulfilling a client's expectations?
You want to go first?
I think it's just knowing how to prioritize each at the right time. Because, and this is a real conversation I have. I mean, I feel for me, it's the realest with my couples, because you are actually oftentimes managing the emotions of other people outside of the couple that you're working with, whether it's the wedding party or family. And then it's also managing the expectations versus reality of what their day is going to look like. But I feel like the creative part, it's not so much the first thing that I lead with. It really is just, the business side, the organization. It's the building of the relationship where the creativity really comes in is going to be with my designer and making sure that we pull it together on the day of the event. But even with that, I usually try to have an inspiration picture, or I'll have the couple put it together first. So that way we already know, here's the inventory form, these are the things, make sure it's all here, and let's put it together.
Do you ever have an issue with working with somebody's budget being lower when them wanting big, extravagant things?
Are you serious? Yes, absolutely. So with the creative expression part of that question, so if I'm doing a full service planning package, okay, what I do, because I take into consideration that client doesn't want to be overwhelmed with having to go through 8 million pictures of what she wants for her wedding. So I ask that vision question in that initial consultation, and then I go and find 3 options, and I send her those options. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick something out of that. And they're going to say, I love that, and like, okay, easy. So, and I just break it into those little elements of the wedding. So I'm using my creative brain still by finding something based on her vision, but still letting her be in control of what she's picking. So there's that. Now, what was the other question that we just said?
Do you have problems working creatively with their budget?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I had a bride. This was like, I think she was like my 3rd bride that I ever taught to. And she wanted this extravagant wedding for like $10,000. And everywhere we went, the venue that she picked out, it was too much. And she switched venues 3 times. That includes putting down deposits and signing contracts. And she wanted all these floral, just everything was just too much. And I'm honest with people. I tell them, if this is what you want to look at, you're going to have to expand your budget if you want, because if you have like high dollar taste, then your budget is not going to meet, high dollar choices.
Yes.
So we ended up not working together. It was one of those situations where we were not a good mix and we were not a good match. Our personalities were completely different. And I'm assuming their wedding went well. I don't know, but yeah.
I feel like it's hard sometimes bringing brides back down to earth.
We got to come back down here for just a minute.
I know that wedding that you saw on TikTok looked beautiful, but that was like a $50,000 wedding, and your budget is $25,000. So
yeah. But here's the thing: you can have a beautiful wedding for $10,000. You can. You just have to be willing to give up some things and be willing to do things differently. Like one of the big things I recommend to people is when you're talking about cake, okay? If you get cake from a great baker that their specialty is wedding cakes, you can be paying $600, $800, $1,000 for a wedding cake. So the bride should ask herself, is cake important to me? Am I even going to eat cake? Because they're probably not even going to eat the cake.
Yeah,
except for that picture. That's it. By that point, everybody's drinking and they're dancing and they're partying and having a good time. And, so I tell them, if cake is not important to you, go to Publix.
That's what I was thinking.
Right. Publix or Sam's. You can get 3 different size cakes of just plainly decorated cakes from Publix, even if you don't want them to decorate it. And have someone stack them for you and have your florist put flowers on it.
Or even just getting different quotes from different people or going with more minute. I can't even tell you what my wedding cake looked like. Do you remember what my wedding cake looked like?
Yes,
I don't.
because I just looked at it a few weeks ago.
Did you? But my wedding cake, I met a vendor on a style shoot and it was $200.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that I did that. For one, I didn't have to make it myself, which that they kind of do, but you can also get somebody else to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Sam's Club will stack them for you.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
they
know that.
do beautiful cakes. Publix does beautiful cakes.
Cheap. They're super cheap, and I just like, because I was very much a bougie bride. I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted it to look like, and I got extremely lucky so freaking lucky because I'm in the wedding industry, and like my event rentals I got at a very good cost, and we had big, extravagant, pompous florals everywhere. Those are expensive.
That's awesome.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they are expensive.
And I mean that, and then the decor, like everything looked expensive, but I got it for such a good cost. And we even we only did real florals in our bouquets, and everything else was fake. Like just knowing where to cut cost, I feel like if you're not in the wedding industry and you don't know those things, I feel like it could be really hard to take that advice from somebody who's just trying to help you.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for them to know, like, we're not trying to tell you you're cheap. We're trying to help you save some money.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm all about helping people save money in their wedding. I really, really am. And talking about florals, artificial flowers are expensive. They are not. They're not cheap.
Well,
they're not.
Going to an event rental company. So I work with Beautiful Wedding and Event Rentals. That's for who I use for my wedding. They'll be on our podcast eventually. They are not super expensive. I feel like renting them from somewhere and returning them ends up being a lot cheaper than going to buy the real florals or buying your own fake florals for the day of. So I always recommend that they look into renting them because it ended up being
and much easier
cheap
on you.
And they'll come set it up for you and take it away when they're done too, which is really helpful.
You don't have to sell anything or get rid of all of your stuff.
When I see DIY brides, I'm like, there's no freaking way. I was like, I want y'all to do all the work and I want to show up to this beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I do not want to hand make bouquets. I don't want to hand make anything. My signs I ordered online. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to do anything.
Oh, I have such a horror DIY story, but I'm going to keep that one to myself, but it is so bad.
No, you got to tell it now. You can't just say that and not tell me.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so hard for me to talk about it just because like it was the one wedding I've done that I got there, literally got out of my car and walked in the room and knew the day was not going to be a good day. Like,
oh, no.
Yeah, it was just a very DIY wedding setting. When I got there, there was still power tools and ladders and stuff everywhere. And I was the only person. Everybody else was off the property. Oh, and nobody gave me any instruction on what to do with all this stuff. I'm like, there's literally a table saw laying here. Like, what am I supposed to do with this, you know? But it was, the day was a total disaster. And it was a situation where I learned, this was the first time I had to learn dealing with moms, that there can be way too many chiefs at a wedding. So because of my experience with that specific mom, and they really didn't need a wedding coordinator because the mom was doing everything. So I went to my mentor after that wedding and I said, hey, so let me ask you this. If you had this situation happen, what would you do in this situation? And she goes, I now have an initial conversation in the very beginning with the mother. If the mother's involved in the wedding, with the mother and the bride, and I tell them, you have to be willing to let go on the day of the wedding. You know, I'm the one that is running your wedding day. You are there to sit back and enjoy it and make memories and remember this day. You have to let me do my job. Like, yes. So I did. The next one where the mom was involved, I had that conversation and it went really, really well. Good. She had her moments, but it could have been way, way worse. And that wedding, they rented all their tableware, everything, plates, silverware for 175 people. And I had to set every place setting by myself. Every place setting, because there wasn't any help there. Other than my kids, who they work my weddings with me sometimes, but they weren't there when I first got there. So, and then there was dishwashing that had to take place after the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know.
And I'm not here to wash dishes.
We've been to a couple weddings where like,
right. I don't wash dishes.
I feel like a lot of the weddings I go to, they'll let the people come in the night before to set up or early morning to set up. But there is nothing more frustrating than when I get to a venue and the bridesmaids and the moms are in like other places trying to set up. And I'm like, I need my person for hair and makeup. I need to get y'all in here for hair and makeup. There is one wedding I was not at, but my team was at, where they got there and nobody was inside the house. They showed up like 20 minutes late for the first makeup appointment. And they're like, oh, let me get this person. I was like, we sent you a timeline. We have a late fee. Like, you got to get in there at that time. go outside looking for the people. Every single person, like, they'd be like, okay, we have this person next. And they'd be like, oh, she's coming. It ended up being so behind. And then they wanted one of my stylists to stay an extra hour to wait for somebody to get there who was like stuck in traffic. And I was like, no, we're already 30, 45 minutes behind because of you guys, you know?
Yeah.
DIY weddings, just like as soon as I get there and I realize like, oh, these people are going to have to go help with things, I'm like, okay, but these people need to stay in this room right now.
Right.
And this person needs to be back at this time. I have like PTSD from brides just running around, bridesmaids running around when I need them.
Yeah.
I am very strict on my timelines.
Yeah. You have to be, because 30 minutes can mean everything
30 minutes
running
of
right.
photos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, last question. Can you share some tips for new wedding planners starting out in the business?
Okay. First, get content, your own work versus stock photos. I feel like a lot of people lead with stock photos, or if you do use them, get them off sooner. Start talking to other vendors and other planners. For me, my network has just been, or I guess my community has been heaven sent. Especially one wedding planner, her name is Arnisha Gaither, and she's in North Carolina, but she ended up becoming my business bestie. I assisted one of her weddings, and ever since then we talk every week. We lean on each other whenever we stress out. We talk to one another. And then I also joined, I don't know if you've ever heard of this podcast, but it's Six Figure Wedding Planner by Halima Hanneman. I feel like she's gotten pretty well known at this point. But I actually joined her mentorship program, and that for me was truly a game changer. I feel like from the moment that I stepped in within a few months, of course, doing what I was doing and then taking on some of the things that she was teaching in her program and then the community that she's built, I started getting inquiries pretty quickly after that. I'm now in her wedding planner to CEO mastermind. And I just feel like, my community has just been everything. So just be wary of who you're bringing in and who's impacting your energy, but also who you're learning from. Assist. And it's okay to not have clients right away. Because there were moments where I'm just like, okay, I've built the website, I've posted on Instagram, I've done the style shoot, I've done the brand shoot. That's actually where a lot of my investment came in up front, was just trying to get images and then establishing those relationships. But again, at some point, it's all going to come together, and it was just preparing you for your first client. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you on assist. Getting in there and following someone and watching how they do it. I did not do that. I was winging it from day one. And I learned from it. I learned from the first few weddings that I did, but I agree, finding a planner to follow that does it right. That's a good idea. And also not being afraid to take the smaller job. So there are so many brides out there that are just looking for someone to put out their decor. They have all their decor. They just need someone to set it up for them. Be willing to do that, figure out what your price range is, and that gets you in there to see what it's like, and then, just take in what that wedding is like and how it's being ran by the coordinator or whoever's running the wedding. I think that's really important. And in the beginning, don't say no to a job. Like, if you have the opportunity to take on a job, because it'll teach you what you want to do and what you do want to say no to later. Like I will still do DIY weddings now, but I'm very limited at the ones that I will take. And I ask a lot of questions when it comes to that. So,
It's good. Do you have any more questions, Joshua? No, come on. I know you got some in that pink box.
So you mentioned stock photos. Is that pretty common practice whenever you start out to use stock photos, or
I mean, like on Wix, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like iStock, or I learned about it through my corporate experience from our marketing team. So a lot of corporations and bigger companies will use stock photos for whenever they create images for their website or for their flyers, things like that. But I also had heard about it through just talking to other planners. You know, a lot of people will use their own weddings. Of course, you know, talking with the photographer to make sure that they can do that. But if they're the ones that designed and styled it, you know, they'll use those. But then, yeah, they'll put stock photos up. But I don't have any on mine. But
I think it's hard to decide what to use because if you don't do the designing and the like setup of the decor and stuff, like you don't really have photos to show except of maybe your brides and grooms that you've done. I had thought of a cool idea of having like a photo of the bride and groom with like the reviews from every couple.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a really good idea for you guys too, because they don't really have anything that they can take photos of to show unless it's them with a clipboard, like, you know what I mean? So it's hard to decide what images to use to advertise for you guys if you don't do the designing and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Yeah. You can also ask, like, have the bride sign a photo consent. Like, can I use photos from your wedding?
And most of them are more than one. I've only had one bride ever not want to sign off on our photo release because she didn't want photos of her wedding online. So.
Yeah.
What things from your corporate experience translated well to wedding planning and what things didn't?
I feel like recruitment. So I did recruitment for 4 years. And that really helped me with, because, you know, the way that I look at it, or I looked at it was a business within a business. So you had to know how to figure out who your ideal client was, how to navigate different personalities. But then actually this was a conversation I had with a pretty successful wedding planner here in Atlanta. Because when I was thinking about doing this, I just asked her, like, what's your experience? And then ultimately I came back with, oh, okay, so it's kind of like recruiting, but also you're kind of like an account manager because you're also working with vendors. And so that directly translated over to being a wedding planner because, I mean, but now you are sourcing for your own clients and now you're the marketing person and the CEO, you know, so you definitely, you're taking on different hats when you're a business owner, but all of that helped me. The marketing, the relationships I have with folks that are still in corporate America, especially marketing, that helps me out. Gosh, what else? And then, see, I can't say that corporate event planning is that similar to wedding planning just because it's on a very big scale and you're working with bigger businesses. But I think ultimately it helped me out.
And then for you, you said that you had experience in marketing. What are like some marketing tips for coordinators or planners just starting that you might give?
Never let the word no scare you because the road to yes is paved with no's. Okay. That was like one of the first things. Kelly Guerin, I used to be a telemarketer when I was way, way, way younger, and she taught me that. So the road to yes is paved with no's. And I would say be genuine, obviously. People buy you. They don't buy like the salesy ad flyer, you know, that's like you can tell was made when you typed in Canva like a business flyer. It's going to look like a business flyer, you know. People buy you. So just use your personality to show that you love what you're doing. Pictures of you doing what you do sells a lot, actually. Like if they see you decorating a table and you have a photo of that. I have photos like that on my website. I mean, I could go on and on, I guess, but those
How
are
do you think you guys get the most, like, where do you think most of your clients stream from? Like referral, Facebook, where do you think you get the most from?
Facebook for me, and referrals, but Facebook mostly. Yeah.
Definitely referrals now and wedding expos. And then I actually have had a lot more Google folks reach out. So it's starting to shift. I haven't really had too much success when it comes to Facebook, just because I think that I don't really stay on top of it. By the time I post, I'm like the 46th person.
There's a lot of social media to keep up with.
Yes.
A lot of
I'm suddenly getting a lot of leads from the Knot, but I also called them to cancel at the beginning of the month, which is really
I just did the
weird.
same exact
so
thing.
many different
So-
reviews on the Knot.
Okay, here you go. Here's your horror story. This will make you never want to use the Knot again. I was scammed for $39,000 from a man who wanted me to plan his wife's anniversary gala or whatever. He had me out touring venues and everything. He said he was overseas and told me about his job and what he did, sent me an ID, sent me his address. I asked for all the right questions, okay? And I toured the venue, got one nailed down. We were about to do a contract. He sent me his check for $39,000 and it was a stolen check. Shut down all of my business accounts. Even my personal accounts at Wells Fargo, it shut down everything.
I got a lot of scammers on there towards the end of the year last year.
Yep.
And yeah, it was a big no-no for. It's hard though, because like, how do they monitor those things?
You
know
can
what I'm
tell
saying?
if it is, and I'll tell you, they all say remotely the same thing. They're like, and their name is like John Johnson or William Williamson. It's something like that. But they'll say like, I'm planning my son's such and such party and I wanted to know your cost on your package. It's always a family member. It's never them. They're planning for somebody else is what they're saying. But I had the conversation with the Knot and just told them they were fighting me on leaving, obviously.
They do that to everyone. They did that to me.
But now I'm getting like fresh leads, good leads, twice a day since I told them that I was leaving, but I'm still leaving. So
yeah, it was a similar story. I got leads from it, but they were never good leads, if that makes sense. Because I feel like even when I went to wedding planning, I didn't really look on the Knot or Wedding Wire for my vendors. I went to Facebook or friend referrals or things like that. So I think that's kind of phasing out a little bit.
Yeah.
And people are just using the Knot for like their wedding website.
Yeah.
And I think Wedding Wire has like a seating chart or something that you can use, something like that. But I use the Knot for my wedding website, but I did not look up one wedding vendor on the Knot. And if I do, it's like bridal dress
What about
shops.
Zola? Do you guys use Zola? I've heard that.
I had a friend who used that.
Yeah.
But she didn't book wedding vendors off of it. I think that is what had the seating chart thing, actually. She liked it because it had a seating chart.
Zola recently opened up to wedding planners and coordinators.
Yeah.
I created a page, but I haven't received any leads from there yet. I've received Bridget, actually. She's my first and only so far from the Knot, which actually booked and was legit. But I haven't, since I've been paying all this money monthly to the Knot, I've not received any.
It just wasn't
That's
worth
so
it.
much
And not
money.
only that,
what?
I looked at where we were when we were paying and where we are now that we're not paying, and it didn't really change in the grand scheme of, you know, things. And there's so many other people who pay for it. How do you really get to be first on the list?
I would rather pay for my name to be in local mailers and things like that than to pay what I think it's like 200 and something, 260 or something for like
that's
to be on their star.
They wanted to bump it up this year too.
Oh,
like mine was going to go from 267 or something like that to 320 or something like that, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm already like not making enough money to cover what I'm paying you guys from you guys, you know. So, I completely did away. Like we still have our profile, but I don't. No. I canceled my subscription because I just get more referrals.
Hassling you, just tell them that you retired from the wedding industry. That's what I did. Because I had a consultation with them trying to like see, because I thought they had free accounts and that you could just list yourself. Not the case.
Mine's still up there and we don't pay.
It's still up, but you so they bump you up based on what you're paying monthly and
in the search.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I will not be going back. And the lady, when I was trying to cancel, was so rude to me, like talking to me like I was stupid, you know? And I'm like,
And I always say, well, if you made this many bookings,
they've got to figure out how to get all those scammers off there. If they don't, then they're going to lose all of their business because
it's just hard because anybody can get on there and make a profile. Like, how do you verify somebody?
Yeah.
To use that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but anyway, yeah, screw them.
So, are we in open question time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Who is your favorite? 2 of your favorite venues that you've worked in as a wedding planner?
Good question.
Ooh. I would say that. Oh my gosh, that's really hard.
If you say the one I'm thinking, we're going to have to get this to them because there is one that I love, but I want to see if it's one that you've worked in.
Let me get back to you on that. I don't know.
Yeah, Sunny, you got to tell us.
It's Terminus 330 in Atlanta. Have you worked there?
I haven't worked there.
They are like a well-oiled machine. That place is so great. They do everything, first of all, but they do the catering. They have the women who work there. They are so team oriented. And, I was doing my stuff because I'll help them out anyway. I was helping them set up tables and all that, even though they have a team that does it. Mm-hmm. But they're like, oh my God, you don't have to do this. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's really, okay. But they were so great.
I'm going to have to check them out.
I loved Terminus. And then you've been there?
No.
Okay. And there was another one I was thinking of, but I lost it.
Have to check that out.
I'll have to.
My wedding venue is my favorite.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it. That's why
of course.
That, and I really like Barn South. Have y'all been to Barn South?
I have not been there yet.
Yeah.
I've seen their pictures,
There's
though.
So many.
It's beautiful.
And you're right. I mean, having a team with the venue that just executes, and it's
the Piedmont Room.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like the Piedmont Room.
Yeah, me too. It makes all the difference in the world because I'm not going to name the venue, but it's a really beautiful venue, but the venue coordinator for the day, they were supposed to be the day of, they treated it like it was their 9 to 5. And it was just churn and burn. It's one of those venues where it's if they can book a wedding Friday morning, Friday night, and Saturday morning, and Saturday night, they will. So then you get a lot of complaints about the couple not being able to do a rehearsal or the communication's not so great. So then when you do work with a venue that has really great communication and you feel like you're part of the team, especially as a planner or coordinator, even if you've never worked there before, like the Mariana, I felt that way with Katie. She is there, I think she does she's bartending manager plus the venue coordinator there. So that's one of my favorite ones simply because of the team.
Yeah. I always try to recommend a full service venue to any bride that can do it because it literally makes all the difference in their wedding day.
Yeah, because catering, event planning, and venue decorating can all go hand in hand. Now, I think photographers, videographers, makeup artists, you kind of have to hand pick those.
Yeah,
but anything you can get all inclusive together, especially if it comes with decor and table settings and stuff like that. That's a big reason why I went with mine because it came with a lot of stuff inclusively.
Yeah.
I think that's always the way we should push people.
Yeah, DJ, photographer, makeup, those things all need to be picked separate because I don't feel like I don't like the idea of the venue giving you a DJ. I don't.
Well, I actually really liked mine.
Did yours
have
have that?
There with that equipment, right?
Yeah.
They know the equipment, they know the space, they know what they need to bring. I did like that at my venue.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you have to make sure you vibe with the personality.
Right.
So I actually set up, they have a meeting when you do book to see if you want to work with them. And I enjoyed the communication that we had.
Right.
So I think it's a hit or miss with DJ for sure.
Definitely, yeah. So for me, I have 3 or 4 that I recommend normally, but one of them is super professional, been in the business over 30 years. He's insanely great, does the uplighting and everything. And then my next one is he is also super professional, but is really good at getting people off their booties and up dancing. So I really, really like him. And then I've got one that's just an hourly guy, but he's fun. He plays music, but he doesn't spin music. So, it just depends on what people want.
Yeah.
I feel like they have to,
for what they want.
they want for the reception. So
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all inclusive is definitely easier when It was for me.
There's some weddings where nobody's getting up. I did one that
those are the worst.
Nobody danced.
It's so awkward.
Nobody danced, and we're all standing back like in our corner, like watching. I'm like, nobody's doing anything.
Not my wedding.
Just sitting there.
I was very clear.
Yeah.
So I made like a speech after everybody made speeches because you know me, I always have something to say. And I was like, at the end of my speech, I was like, and y'all better get up and dance with me. Nobody's going to be sitting down because I love to dance. I was like, that's what I want to do at my wedding. I want to dance on the dance floor with all my wedding guests and have a good time.
Yep.
I would have been not okay. I would have been distraught if people weren't up dancing with me. I would have been so upset.
I love a good wedding with lots of dancing.
Yes.
I did one, the groom was from Iceland. And the bride was from Argentina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, two completely opposite. But they had the most fun at their reception. They had Icelandic dancing, and then they were playing reggaeton like all the time, which I love. I have a hard time sitting still when they have like reggaeton playing because that's like one of my favorite genres of music. But it was so fun and just...
See, I get invited to a lot of brides' weddings. I know, like... We just hit it off at their trial, you know what I mean? And they invite me to their wedding to be a guest. And I'm like, you don't want me to be a guest.
Yeah.
You don't want me out there.
Right, yeah.
Because I did that once. It was a friend of a friend. Like, I knew her, but I did her wedding, her makeup. But then she invited me, and I just sat with, like, my friend that I knew, And I kept the party going. Let me just say that. Because it was a bunch of old people.
Yeah.
And, they were nice as could be. But I was like, come on, let's go do the chicken dance, Yes. I can't be at a wedding.
Sometimes you got to be that person because sometimes there is not that person at all.
Yes.
So.
Agreed.
You almost just need to hire people to be like, party hypers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure nobody's sitting down. That's what I should have done.
Well, I'll tell you guys.
It was a lot of fun.
A very the very hype DJ is Marlon Watson. Do you know Marlon? With Go DJ ATL.
Oh, I love Go DJ ATL.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite.
Really?
Oh, he's the owner.
He is, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He's so fun.
Professional. They even will bring like a live violinist. They did that for.
Oh, that's cool.
Was it Christy Bates?
No.
Oh, okay. She's my violinist for our Valentine's Day dinner at the venue.
That's awesome.
She's so good.
I gotta find music for our Galentine's event. I normally just bring like my big speaker, but like I feel like having a DJ mixing would be so cool.
I got people all around here, like musicians, even if you don't want a DJ that are local. So just let me know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Throwing events is hard.
You're doing a lot of events though. Well, I am too, but you're doing a lot of events.
We're doing one a month.
Yeah.
We have the Princess event this weekend, and then the weekend after next we have the Valentine's Day.
How is the Princess event going? Do you feel like you're getting a lot of like feedback?
No, which was very odd to me. I thought people would be all over that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But we reached out to the schools thinking that the schools were going to help us. And they were like, no, this has to go through the Board of Education. So I just didn't have time to send it through the Board of Education. So the next time that we do it, we're going to make sure we send it through the Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just weird to me that people didn't want to send it because it was a really good
Do they
cost.
let you put advertising in for prom at the schools?
I haven't gone to do it yet, but I plan on doing it. So hopefully.
I'm trying to put together a dinner package for prom.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
That's
for
a
Grayson
good idea.
and Archer because it's right there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
you should do it to Loganville too because it's right down the street.
Yeah, I don't have to have alcohol for those, so that would actually be a lot smoother than trying to have alcohol.
What's it like owning a venue?
I just opened January 21st, and it's actually really cool because what I'm bringing is unique. It's different. It's not like necessarily a wedding venue. It's an event venue.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea was it's in this old house built in 1925. It's 1,780 square feet. And we have completely remodeled it and painted. I would be the one that's like, I'm going to paint the exterior of this house. No big deal. Y'all, that was crazy. Anyway, but I had friends that helped. And I'm so thankful. They just voluntarily helped me. I didn't even have to ask them. It was just so sweet. But anyway, it's exciting. because it's different, and I'm doing things like different kinds of events every month. Like February's event calendar is out, and we're doing brunch on this coming Sunday, and then 2 Sundays from that, we have a Valentine's dinner where I have 2 separate dinners because I don't have a lot of space inside. So I have Christy Bates coming to play violin for the first early bird dinner, and then Mook and Mimi coming that night, and I love them because they are just, their voices are awesome. So that's fun. And then we're doing a karaoke night, and we're doing a family game night, which is the last Friday of every month, where I have board games on all the tables. And anyway, these are all ideas so that people can get in there and see the place, because and
then realize they can rent it.
Yeah. Come spring, I'm redoing the back lawn and fencing it off, and that's going to be like a ceremony area. Yeah. And for graduation parties and prom and all of that. So it is exciting. It's work. It's a lot different being in a brick and mortar than being sitting there doing my business, you know.
Yeah.
Because you constantly have to like think of what to do, because you have to pay for that brick and mortar. So yeah,
you have to find some way to make money.
Yeah. So like I sublease my kitchen to a chef, so that I have somebody there all the time that I can depend on to cook, and he's incredible. And his PR lady, Wanda, she's amazing too. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great
Yep.
idea.
And I wanted to sublease the bar space as well, but can't do that yet. So
Hopefully that works out.
it will.
The clothing shop right here had to get rezoned. So she's dealing with that. She can't sell from the shop right now because we're having to rezone it for retail.
Oh.
Because it used to be an office building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's going through that. But it should be done within a month. Hopefully
Does she have to go to like the planning and
the
zoning?
city, yeah.
That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to go stand up there in front of all those people.
It's not that bad. Normally there's not that many people at the city meetings, honestly, unless there's like something big going on. But I doubt there'll be a whole lot of people. I think when they went, there was like 3 people in the audience.
Yeah.
Like it's just the people specifically petitioning for stuff normally.
Yeah.
Don't be nervous.
I think I can
You'll
make
be
it
okay.
happen. Well, if I made it in front of the mayor and the city manager, I can do that. So
Yeah. I can't wait to come see it. I need to come see it.
it's
If you ever
really,
need
it's so
drone
pretty.
footage or anything, just let me know.
You should get Joshua to make you a video.
Well, that's the thing. I need to. I had to open. So I got to the point where it was like, okay, no more work on the place. I've got to get this place open. And so that's what I did. So when it gets warmer and we have some weather that's not up and down, that's when I'm going to finish the back, and I'll have somebody come in. You can come in. Whoever can do it. You know what I mean? I want a video and a styled shoot, and inside's completely vintage. So like I got all like a vintage couch off Facebook Marketplace. That's like,
How
Victorian. Yeah, it's really cool. It's y'all should come just to enjoy the dinner and the entertainment and stuff. So it's great.
Yeah. I'm
pretty.
definitely going to be up there soon. Every time you throw an event, I'm doing something.
Well, are you really?
I am.
That's not.
I wonder why.
You're always doing something.
That is true. I stay pretty busy. Hopefully that won't last forever, but
Yeah.
literally.
Bring the kids to family game night.
Yeah, I
The
might do
last
that,
Friday of the
actually.
month. Yeah.
They would love that.
Yeah.
They like games.
Yeah, we do kid friendly food, chicken fingers and stuff like
Dino
that.
Nuggies, they love those.
Oh, what is the deal with Dino Nuggies? That is like, my teenagers are like, can we get some Dino Nuggies?
They're good.
I'm like,
Dino
that's
really
Nuggies
different.
and mac and cheese.
They're different.
Yeah.
That's
They're
what
good.
our kids live off of. Well, they did. They're starting to like advance their palates just a little bit. But Ryan is still picky as all get out. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Bridal Business Podcast. If you guys have any questions for Elle or Sunny about coordinating or planning, please comment them below.